Joining us now, Congressman Rob Wittman, running for re-election in the 1st District. That's the Northern Neck and Fredericksburg area. Congressman Wittman, great to have you.
John, it's great to be with you this morning. Thanks for the opportunity.
Congressman, thank you for being one of our sponsors in our great election night broadcast tonight. Without your sponsorship, we couldn't make this possible, sir. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for being on and giving up-to-date reports and great analysis.
Tell me about the 1st District. You've been out and about, I know, this morning meeting, voters shaking hands. How does it feel? How does it look, sir?
Well, John, here in my home county, I was at my home precinct this morning. Good, steady turnout. Talked to a lot of folks going in the polls. They're all very enthusiastic about today and having their chance to come out and cast their vote, supporting the president. I talked to our precinct captains in the upper part of the county. This is a small precinct. There were over 30 folks waiting in line at 6 o'clock this morning. So great turnout, nice and steady. And these are polling locations that have always been very, very good to not only myself in my years serving from local government to state government to the federal level, but also to our Republican candidates. So I feel very good about how things are going. Now we'll go from here to several other polling locations throughout the district, from here to King George, and then to Stafford, and then to Hanover County, and then back up to Stafford. We'll be in Stafford this evening. So we're trying to get to as many places as we can and get out there and talk to folks. But great conversations today with folks. Of course, growing up here in a small little town, I know most everybody coming to the polls, so it's a great chance to say hello to folks, have some conversations, and catch up on things. So from asking folks about what's happening on the farm, and I was talking to a friend of mine I grew up with, asking him how corn harvest have gone this year. So it's just little things like that. So it's really a good down-home day when we're out there talking to folks at the poll.
In your home precinct, just a turnout today, game day, you've been voting there, you know it like the back of your hand. Are we up, we down? Give me a sense of the turnout.
Well, listen, I would say we're up. And remember the large number of people that have voted early. So if you take that, this is a very, very steady turnout. And again, just as you point out, and again, this is all anecdotal, but
of course,
looking at the folks that are turning out this morning, they're the folks that have told me and have told others, hey, listen, I'm coming out on November 3rd to vote. And these are folks that are, strong supporters of the president, and they're just saying, I'm coming out today to vote. So it's good to see that steady stream of folks going to the polls.
Well, I tell you what, when we did our analysis, the RNC overlaid the analysis in Virginia. Basically, on game day, we expect that Trump is going to win the game day Virginia vote 65% to 30%. So we're going to win it by almost 35, 5% for other third-party candidates. But we're going to win game day by a tremendous margin. The Democrats ran up, a big score on early voting, obviously, and also with the mail-in ballots. But they underperformed. When we looked at their core precincts, this is why we have a shot in Virginia, and I'm not giving you hype. They've underperformed. Because right now they've got out about 1 million some voters. I have to look the exact number up. I had it earlier, but I just know that they have underperformed where they need to be. And if we get our vote out today, Virginia could be a shocker, Rob.
Well, I tell you, it's good, strong turnout this morning. And just as you point out, and again, this is anecdotal, nothing scientific about it, but just from the folks that I know here in the Montrose area, and folks I know here in the county, I would say that, your estimates are pretty spot on as far as the people coming out to the polls today. And just as you've said, the early voting, we know the percentages there. So when we have good strong turnout today, and that's what we need, on the, I call it the end of the election. While today is election day, I tell folks this year it's different. The election was from September 15th through through November the 3rd.
Right.
It's not, everybody says, oh, election's November the 3rd. I'm like, no. Election time is much broader today. So
yeah,
yes,
it's like election season, right? Not election day anymore. Here are the numbers. I shared these at the 6 o'clock hour. We're with Republican Congressman Rob Wittman, running for re-election in the 1st District in Virginia. That's Northern Neck, Culpeper, out through Hanover. So, Rob, here's what I got from our campaign. And also, same thing that Target Smart had, which is a Democratic pollster, basically. Early voting through 10:30, which was the final day, that Saturday. There were about 2,300,000 ballots cast. They estimated that the Democrats got 1.1 million, or about 49% of those. Republicans got 872,000, or about 38%. So that's the 11-point margin that all the fake polls are showing Trump down in Virginia. So that's consistent. There was another 13% that couldn't identify. So you figure, they go to Biden 3-2, basically. We'll give them that. That gives him the 13-point lead that showed up in CNU and the Roanoke poll. But of the estimated total turnout in Virginia based on past performance, 53% have already voted, leaving 46% to vote on game day. Of that 46%, Trump is expected to get 60% of that, Biden 35%, based on our modeling. So if we get the turnout above what we got in 2016, Trump can actually win Virginia.
No, listen, I think that there's a lot of different dynamics in this election cycle. The early voting dynamic, which is much different now than it ever has been, and I agree. I mean, you always sort of estimate what's going on by seeing what's happening at the polls on Election Day, and we see what's happening now, and just as you said, projecting the number of folks have indicated about when they're going to vote, and that is Republicans are much, much more likely to show up on November the 3rd. The Democrats much more likely to vote early, and that's been the whole Democrats' plan, is for early voting. In many instances, though, if you look at the overall turnout in many areas, it's under what the Democrats had estimated. So if their numbers are under, and then we have a good showing today, which, as I said, anecdotally, we're seeing this morning, at least here in a micro snapshot of what's happening, then yes, things can turn out very, very differently than what pollsters may prognosticate.
And the thing is, go ahead.
No, let's not talk to a lot of folks at the polls this morning, and of course, several of them brought it up, not me, about polling and pollsters, and it's interesting how folks view polling today. They view it with a high degree of suspicion and cynicism, and for a lot of folks, it said, "Hey, listen, nobody's ever called me," or if I get a call, I refuse to answer it. So the question becomes, what are polls sampling, and if there's already a built-in bias as far as your sampling pool, what are the polls reflect? I always tell folks, I said, listen, the only poll that truly means anything is the poll that's taken, this year from September 15th through November the 3rd, and that is people going and casting their vote.
What is really going to make the difference here is, from all the trends we've seen now in the morning, Trump voters are coming out. They're coming in huge numbers. Every Republican every call that I've got has given me numbers that are 2x and 3x what they normally have at this particular time. They're all Trump voters. Means they're coming out. The trend is being set. But here's the deal. The Democrats have no ground game. They're powerless to do anything. So if you're Susan Schwecker and you're sitting there, or you're Abigail Spanberger, or you're Elaine Loria, what are you going to do? You have no volunteers on the ground. You have no way to get your voters out. They already voted, and you've told them don't go out on game day. You might die. So you can't go vote. So what are they going to do? Call them up now and say, go vote and die? I mean, and they have no people to get them out because they have no ground game, because they don't want to go out in public. So they have nothing. They are powerless to stop this wave. This is why, Rob, we're going to win today. Trump is going to get elected today because you're going to get the same wave. We're hearing it. It's forming in Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. This is not just isolated to Chesterfield or Hanover, all right? It's a trend that is going on across the country. Trump voters turning out this morning in tremendous numbers. This is the fear the Democrats have. They have no power to stop it. They have no power to combat it. They have no antidote. They just have to sit and wait and sweat. That's all they can do.
Well, John, this is an interesting election cycle. In fact, I would say one that's historic because of COVID-19, because of all the other dynamics going on with the emphasis on early voting, and now with a group of folks that said, "Hey, listen, I'm not voting early. I'm coming out on Election Day," and the different tactics both sides have taken. I mean, we've been out there knocking doors on a daily basis, been on the telephone talking to folks, encouraging folks to vote, letting them know the opportunities to vote early if they so choose, but to make sure, too, that we have them down as voting by 7 o'clock today. And that's, I think, one of the things that's interesting about this election cycle is there's so many different layers to it, whereas before it was pretty simple, get everybody out to vote on November the 3rd. Some folks would vote early because of work and other things, and now the laws in Virginia changing too, where it's now, you can vote early without having to have a reason. That has opened up things too. So, we've looked at it essentially as a layered approach, and that is beginning on September 15th. That's when the election begins, and you work each and every day to try to get folks out early, and then for those that don't, get them to the polls on November the 3rd. So it has to be a layered attempt. If you don't do that, then you're right. You lose out on a major portion of the number of votes that are needed to win the election. And I think that's critical in how elections today should be looked at. And I think it does change the complexity of elections in the future. I think there'll be, while we won't be hopefully in the throes of a pandemic, I do think that the dynamic of voting too, with what happens in this election cycle, is going to change.
John Fredericks Radio Network with Congressman Rob Wittman, Republican's 1st District of Virginia, running for re-election today. He's expected to win a big victory and go back to Congress and hopefully go back with a Republican Congress, President Trump, for another 4 years. I'm confident Trump is going to win. I'm very confident the Republicans are going to hold the Senate. I'm going to predict right now that we're going to lose the Colorado seat. That one's gone. But I think McSally holds on. You're going to flip the seat in Alabama. Doug Jones, a dead duck. The football coach wins that. I can't say his name because he's the guy that abandoned us in Ole Miss, so I just can't ever say his name. So whatever. Auburn coach said he would go out in a box, and next day he went out with caviar in a limo, so screw him. But he's going to win, and I'm sure he'll be a good senator. But for Ole Miss fans, he's anathema, as they say. So you're going to flip that seat. I think Tillis holds on in North Carolina. So if McSally and Tillis win, it's over. They can't win the Senate because they flip Alabama. Maybe we lose Colorado. I think that's dead. But I'll tell you the other thing, Rob. I never count Susan Collins out. I really don't. I know all the polls show her behind. She's been through this before. They always say she's going to lose. She manages to win. I think Collins is going to win again in Maine. So I think the Republicans are going to be fine there. And I think in the House, you're going to get your friend Scott Taylor back. He's going to win, no question. He's going to win handily. And the Frida Spanberger thing is going to be really, really close.
No, listen. I think Virginia is going to play out between the 2nd district and the 7th district, and it's all going to be about voter turnout and how folks respond to the contrast. So it'll be interesting to see. Scott
Taylor's going to win because he's going to carry Virginia Beach, and he's going to carry the peninsula, and he's going to carry Accomack, and that leaves really only Norfolk and Williamsburg for Loria. If she can't carry Virginia Beach, she's not going to win again. Taylor's going to carry Virginia Beach race over. Rob Wittman, good luck tonight. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for being a sponsor for our big show tonight, sir. Thank you.
John, thank you so much. Thanks for all that you do, and we look forward to your show this evening.
Rob Wittman, running for re-election, is going to win handily. But you got to run through the tape, Rob. That's why you're out there. John Fredericks Radio Network.